Well, some new numbers out this morning compiled by Koho find that a very large group of Gen Z Canadians are spending too much time struggling to pay for living essentials that they are unable to then think and save for the future. So joining us for a closer look at these numbers is Daniel Eberhard, CEO and founder of Koho. Daniel, let's talk about these numbers for Gen Zs. You know, the finances here, it's not a pretty picture.
No, it's not. And first of all, thank you for having me. You know, like you folks were alluding to this in your prior segment, you know, we pay a lot of attention to Gen Zs because we certainly have a lot of them as users, but we're seeing this across the board from more elderly folks going back to work to middle-aged folks and Gen Zs through all being down. And I think you're seeing this in the macro as well.
Yeah, Daniel, you know, a lot of people talk, you know, sort of in conversation about the gig economy. And it seems that's the thing. It's people have these gig jobs, but nothing permanent, you know, no benefits, pension plans, or even defined contribution plans. And these people, they're sort of like are looking for whatever they can to kind of piece together some sort of financial stability, but it's very unstable.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that the traditional path that we all grew up with and prior generations grew up with of getting a stable job, stable house, the affordability of that has all changed for these folks. And I think that what we're seeing with Gen Zs is just trying to piece it together. There is some freedom that comes with these gig jobs, but that's also, as you mentioned, it does come with a lot of certainly insecurity in the future as well.
So then what could the possible concerns be down the road, Daniel? I'm thinking about, you know, credit scores, credit ratings, you know, trying to get a mortgage, trying to borrow big chunks of money. If you don't have that sort of permanent job, where do you turn for, you know, extra income to sort of do the things you need to do to survive?
Yeah, I don't think there's easy answers here. I mean, I think if you're looking at this in an economy that's down 1.6% year on year, obviously we're talking about a lot of pressure on GDP at a macro level in the economy. You know, there's a number of things that are impacting specifically Gen Zs, and obviously the labor market's tightening up, but it's tightening up into an economy that is slowing down. And we've talked about this a lot at Koho, but you know, the macro comparison of Koho, or excuse me, of Canada against, you know, the OECD countries is not good. We continue to rank in sort of the bottom of the G20 in terms of economic prosperity and the future. So, you know, I think that there is no answers here if we don't get an economy that's productive and useful, and part of that is, you know, it's acute with the labor market. It's also acute with what we're seeing with Donald Trump. But these are kind of headwinds that we've been dealing with for a long time in this country.
That's what I wanted to ask you about. Is just based on the sort of tariffs or the kind of current economic uncertainty we're facing, or is this something that's more of a ingrained Canadian issue that's kind of become even more pronounced based on what we're dealing with at this point?
No, it's certainly ingrained. I mean, a lot of the things that we're seeing now have been kind of a decade in the making. And you can, again, look at us through the G20 lens or the OECD lens. But, you know, if the GDP in this country, when you adjust for inflation, is basically flat for a decade, the GDP per capita, excuse me. And so when you adjust for that, you're saying, OK, as individuals, we are no more productive as an economy than we were 10 years ago. And I do think that what we're seeing is some of this stuff starting to come home to roost insofar as, you know, Canada competing even interprovincially as well as just globally is getting harder and harder. And I do think folks are at a national level are becoming more aware of some of these headwinds, and certainly prosperity is more of a focus for the folks in Ottawa. But no, this has been in the works for a decade or more. So
then, Daniel, as a CEO of a company like yours, how does that make you feel about the potential sort of future here, you know, for Canada when you consider how many, you know, Gen Zs and millennials are having these issues?
I mean, you know, I think optimism and sort of a pragmatic optimism is always the right posture. But, you know, there is always a sound reason. Like I continue to be very long Canada. We have incredible schools, incredible talent. I think the capital markets are actually stronger than people think here. And so the only real answer is to continue to get back to work and try and build a productive economy and create, you know, a positive sum game for everyone. I don't know of any other ways. And, you know, we see a lot of this in Koho. While we do see the economic pressure, we also see people starting businesses every day. We see a lot of innovation. We see a lot of people, you know, working hard to better their lives and their future. And so I continue to believe pragmatic optimism is the only kind of posture that makes sense.
Okay, well, let's leave it on the positive note then. Daniel Eberhard is the CEO and founder of Koho. Daniel, appreciate the time this morning. Thanks for this.
Thank you for having me.